As promised and announced, Mr. Steve Quayle will be our guest today, and be prepared for things to go wrong. All this morning, my computers have been down. I've gotten knocked off the network a number of times, but this happens when Steve and I get together and share vital information. Right now, you can watch the stock market all you want and the mainstream media, and I hope you don't. But the news is on the Weather Channel. It's affecting crops. It's affecting food, the food production, the food costs, the inflation that's coming. People are dying everywhere because of weather, floods, radiation, which is man-made, of course, and probably a lot of this stuff is man-made. And Mr. Steve Quayle, who I have been blessed to cross paths with, and you heard me relate the story a couple days ago about the drowning dog I rescued out of my pool, and he was going down for the count, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, no help, and he was just crying in the wilderness. And for whatever reason, I came out there and saw him, grabbed him by the paw as he was going under, and pulled him out and rescued him, I guess. That's the way I feel about Mr. Steve Quayle and Romy and Hawk and so many others like you out there that have saved my sorry soul and rescued me and pulled me out, and I lived for another day. Steve, we are in horrible, tragedious times right now, and I thank you for being there for all of us and providing whatever insight and information you can provide. Steve, good morning.
Well, good morning, John, and I think that this is a very treacherous time period as well as a perilous time period. And I apologize for coughing intermittently, but I've just gotten over a double whammy dose of bronchitis, so if your listeners I'll try and turn away from the phone. But listen, what's going on right now is we're seeing the full effect of the New World Order agenda that was spelled out in 1974 by Zbigniew Brzezinski and also Henry Kissinger. And basically, this agenda was the one that I quote, you quote, others have quoted from or alluded to. Alex refers to it. And that is the fact that it is the New World Order's design and desire to kill off at least 5.5 billion people. Now, before I went on with you, John, I've been getting a lot of the shills and the thrills of the shills emailing me saying, why do you go on and scare people? Well, I go on because I'm called to be a watchman, have been one for 19 years, have been so far ahead of the time that people that have resisted the truth are now going to be overwhelmed by the truth. The weather warfare and the control issues that we're going to talk about are the agenda of the elite to decimate the population of this planet.
Well, but you just said something that you go on and scare people, and I do too. I mean, I've got kind of a gallows humor, as Hawks pointed out, but it is scary out there, but because it's only the truth. And I ask people to deal with the facts as they can, but these are the facts. Yeah, are they scary? If you're not scared, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I think that people have to learn this, that as the cyber war intensifies, and that the military now has 100,000 cyber warriors whose sole duty is to develop online personalities, distinct, separate, and basically with their own ISP addresses to basically flood the internet with fallacious, in other words, lies, and also to discredit guys like you, me, Hawk, Greg Evenson, the different people out there. And they're graded and paid on the efficacy or the effectiveness of the cyber personalities that they develop. Now, think about that. 100,000 cyber warriors, 10 guys each or 10, men and women. That's 1 million people that are on the Internet with their own, if you will, made up or compiled personalities. And all of their duty is to take away from the truth, to attack the truth. And so
Well, I mean, what we've learned in the last decade is like the CIA has embedded their own people in CNN and Fox News and NBC and all the mainstream media, and they control the news. And what you're saying is dead spot right. I mean, you look at these shills in this business, Hannity and Rush and Glenn Beck and so many others. They're there to basically neutralize the truth.
Well, and not only that, but they're controlled opposition. Now, I want to make something clear. The point that I really feel that we've got to cover today, this is a spiritual battle. And when I say spiritual battle, with physical ramifications that people who have, mocked God, tried to put him aside. And it's interesting. The Christians that I know are so, to a large extent, most of the ones, when I say casual Christians, are so ineffective and ineffectual in precipitating any kind of change. Number one, standing up for Jesus, standing up for righteousness, doing what they can do, writing letters to the editor, you know what I'm saying, backing financial boycotts of establishments, etc. But I got to tell you something. In the years I've been doing this, it's amazing to me that people who are supposedly acknowledging that there is a heaven and hell, that Christians who claim to be bought with the blood of Jesus, if they're truly saved, and they're saying nothing, doing nothing. And John, every day we get more and more reports of Christians in Egypt being slaughtered, Christians in this country being slaughtered. And the plan for slaughter, see, this is what makes me upset. And this is the thing that I battle with the Lord daily on. When I say battle with the Lord daily, I don't mean I'm trying to oppose God, but I keep saying always, and you've heard me say this so many times publicly, Lord, where are the people? Where are the army of Gideon? Where are these people? I just got an email, John, before we went on the thing, some guy busting my, chops over why I'm not doing more to do this or do that. And I just sent an email saying, what are you doing? I've written 10 books now. My new book, which is out in 2 weeks, it's at the printer today, Weather Wars, 816 footnotes. So I just added them up. I've got over 8,000 pages of footnotes that lead to multiple pages, and I've done my homework. Yet I watched the shill boards like Tree of Liberty, Time Bomb, and stuff. There's some great people on those boards. But some guy will come on and say, I don't believe in weather warfare because there's not enough power to run the machines. Well, the fact that he doesn't believe, and the fact that he probably never read, and by the way, this is the literal patent number 4686605. 4686605, we get reports that before Fukushima blew up, the ionosphere had heated up. Gee, guess what HAARP and its other 71 ionospheric heaters do? They heat up the ionosphere, and then they can be utilized in massive amounts of ways to control weather, to initiate earthquakes, to initiate volcanoes. And so now we're dealing with I remember every word that can be used against me has been used against me. I'm not a self-pity thing. I'm just saying this. Yet where were those people 10, 15 years ago when I was making the statements that I was making that now are happening? And I love the statement of the shill of the day. Well, he's always wrong. Even a broken clock is right, twice a day. Well, look, after, like I said, 10 books, 20 years, 8,000 footnotes, absolutely. I think on my website we must link to, close to 10,000 pages that link to other pages, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is that I've done my homework. So the answer to fear, the antidote for fear is knowledge. But God himself said in his word, the Holy Bible, that his people, notice this, not the pagans, not the infidels, not the drunks or lechers, whatever, everything that, is simple humanity, at least in their eyes. Bottom line is that it's his people that will not acknowledge the truth or act upon the truth. So what do? We warn, we try and admonish, we encourage, we try and get people prepared. But I'll tell you what, there is a fearful statement. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. And, God is angry with the sinner every day. And so there's a war going on in the spiritual realm. Yet, basically, most Christians I know are so oblivious. Now, I'm not just saying Christians, okay? I mean, I had an email from a new, one of the most new age people in the world, and wanting to advertise on my website. And I said, no way, never, and are you out of your mind? And it's a guy that wanted to debate me at one time. Do you remember the Raelians, R-A-E-L-I-A-N-S?
Yeah.
Lord Rael, they were talking about human cloning, and the guy has his, bevy of women, and they call him Lord Rael. Well, I know one Lord, his name is Jesus, and Rael isn't it. And so you've got everybody out there clamoring in their voices. Now, what does your calling, John Stokes, Hawks, others, Greg Evenson, myself, everybody who's on talk radio, is that we're trying to give a preponderance of evidence to show the people what's in store. So if God says his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, that's not me saying it. I'm telling you that I agree with him, but the point is that why, and I would say the same thing, why do people listen to you and I, and then they're almost, if you will, addicted to us, but then they go out and try and slam us, yet they can't escape that nudge or that, if you will, that irritation where they know that we're getting them mad, and what we're getting them mad at is we're upsetting the apple cart. It's just like Jesus coming on the scene. When he came on the scene, when it pleased the Father to manifest the Son, there is a time for everything. And now this time is a time of warning, preparation, and God says his people, he's willing that none should perish. But I even say to the Lord, last night I said, Lord, this has got to even in everything you know, and you're the God of creation. You speak the world into existence. This has got to even surprise you at the depravity and the disregard for truth, what's happening. So we get a guy like Dutch Sins, by the way. He listens to you and I. That's his YouTube name, DUTCHSINSE. He goes and identifies all of the electromagnetic radiation fields prior to the tornadoes, goes on YouTube, says this is what's going to happen, and voila, it happens. Well, God bless him, and God bless the people that are being, if you will, citizen detectives. That's John, the thing that people have got to understand. It's in our face, but people simply will not acknowledge what they choose willingly to ignore.
You know what I've noticed, Steve, is that the message you give out, and I put together all the highlights of your web page on my page, and I lead off with that, and all the great stories of the world today. It's information, and it's the truth. But I've found that this audience is the majority, basically Alexa ratings and all that kind of stuff, is older women. And why women, the mothers, the nurturers, the ones that give life to all of us, are the majority of the audience. And the men, the warriors, are just sitting back in their Barca-lounger and doing nothing.
Well, because they're lazy dogs if they're in their Barca-lounger, pun intended, okay? And I mean that. I know that. I've said that before. Why is it that the mightiest men of God I know are women? And I don't mean that, to sound anything other than the truth. Look, who was at the cross when Jesus was crucified, okay? Who was at the tomb? Women. I got to tell you something. I know thank God for Romy, and thank God for Sue and Kathy and the intercessors out there. And I don't know them all by name. There's so many people, John, that pray for you and I daily. But I can tell you this, they're women, And all the tough guys, the guys that want me to say something or do something, I just say, so what have you done? That's my answer now to my emailers. So you tell me what, well, somebody ought to do this, or you ought to do this, or you ought to do that. Hey, I don't get particle beam electromagnetic weapons at my communication, because I'm, holding back anything.
Like right now, our signal's being interrupted a little bit, folks, because when Steve and I are on the air together, delivering the message of God, delivering what he wants to say to you, and allowing these airways to come to your home, your iPod, your downloads. Right now, we are number 3 in the world, worldwide. We're only right behind Rush Limbaugh, and we're on his heels, because this is a message you've got to hear, and for whatever reason, God wants you to hear it. And I'm not trying to say I'm some sort of godly role model. I'm not. And if Steve and I would have met 20 years ago, we'd still be serving time together, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I tell you what, we'd be serving ourselves at, the expense of, let's just say this. We certainly wouldn't be drinking from the fountains of living water together. Here's the deal. You are what you are. I am what I am, but that's irrelevant. It's what God has called us to be, and that's the message I have today. The message I have today, John, is this. The people of God will have no excuse, because each one of us is going to stand before Jesus on Judgment Day. And it's not that you hope you're good enough. One of the things I want to put to rest in your mind, when you accepted Jesus Christ, John Stokes, look, people can point your sin. People still point my sin at me every day. And they don't know. We look in the mirror and we see our own sin. But the thing is, we're saying, look, God has forgiven us our sin. We're turning to him. And that's the answer. So, John, you don't earn his salvation. It's a free gift.
Yeah. And what a gift it is.
And what a gift it is. So, okay.
I'm probably the most unworthy, and I tell people all the time, I'm the last guy